let's set the scene. It's the 2nd century Roman Empire. This is a world that is just completely soaked in Greek culture. We're talking philosophy, art, religion, the whole shebang. To even question it, well, that was like questioning civilization itself. But one guy did. And he did it with a kind of fury that, believe it or not, we can still feel today.
Wow, I mean, just listen to that. That is a savage description of the most respected thinkers of the ancient world, the Greek philosophers. It is just so sharp, so visceral, you can practically feel the contempt dripping off the page. So you have to wonder, who on earth would have the nerve to write something like this? Who is this intellectual bomb thrower taking aim at the absolute heart of the establishment?
Well, let's meet him. This is Tatian. And the first thing you need to know is that he wasn't Roman. He wasn't Greek. He was a total outsider, born in the land of the Assyrians, what we'd now call Iraq. He journeyed all the way from the edges of the empire right to its center, Rome. And what he found there, well, it changed everything for him.
You see, Tatian was just disgusted by the pagan religious practices he saw in the big city. He found them morally rotten to the core. So he started searching for something else, something real. He starts reading the Jewish scriptures, the Old Testament, and it's like a light bulb goes off. He becomes convinced they are way, way older and, in his words, too divine to be compared with the errors of the Greeks. And just like that, he converts to Christianity.
And that conversion, it wasn't just about personal faith for him. Oh no, it gave him a mission, it gave him a weapon. And he decided to turn all of his intellectual training against the very culture he'd once come to study.
And this right here is his weapon of choice, the address to the Greeks. Now, this wasn't some gentle, polite debate. People who've studied it, both back then and today, call it a philippic, which is basically a fancy word for a bitter, all-out verbal assault. Tatian wasn't there to disagree with the Greeks. He was there to humiliate them. So how did he do it? Well, he had this killer three-point attack. He didn't just find a few weak spots. He tried to tear the whole building down. First, he goes after the philosophers everyone revered, calling them hypocrites who couldn't even agree with each other. Then, he turns his fire on the gods, making fun of their myths full of cheating and fighting. And finally, he just condemns the entire culture, from their laws right down to their gladiatorial games. Now, this is where his strategy gets really, really clever. He doesn't say, hey, Zeus and Apollo aren't real. Not at all. He says, oh, they're real, all right, but they're not gods. They're demons. He used the Greeks' own myths against them, arguing that the terrible behavior of these gods was proof that they were evil spirits actively trying to corrupt humanity. For his audience, that was a deeply unsettling idea.
But Tatian wasn't just about tearing things down. After he scorched the earth of Greek culture, he was ready to propose something new, something he argued was far, far better.
He takes the ultimate Greek insult, barbarian, and he flips it. He wears it like a badge of honor. He basically says, you're right. I am a barbarian, and my barbarian philosophy, which comes from the East, is better than yours. He was proposing a whole rival system of thought, a rival culture, what scholars call a barbarian paideia. And this was his trump card. His whole argument hinged on one simple thing: time. Just look at the dates here. He shows that Moses and the Jewish laws existed centuries before the Trojan War, centuries before Homer ever wrote a word. His point? If my barbarian wisdom is older, it must be the original, pure truth. And all your Greek philosophy? It's just a flawed copy that came along later. But here's the twist. Tatian's story gets incredibly complicated. The same man who fought so hard to defend Christianity would eventually be condemned by the church itself. It's this wild contradiction. On one side, the early church loved him for proving Moses was older than the Greeks. But on the other side, his own views got more and more extreme. He started preaching this intense self-denial, even arguing that marriage was evil. Eventually, he was kicked out of the church in Rome for ideas that leaned towards Gnosticism, a belief system that saw the material world itself as corrupt. And yet, you absolutely cannot write him off as just some fringe heretic. His other masterpiece, the Diatessaron, was this brilliant harmony of the four Gospels woven into one single story. It was so good, so useful, that it became the official gospel text for Syriac-speaking churches for hundreds of years. So the heretic was also a founding father. Go figure.
And you know what? This confusion about him, it's not just ancient history. It's happening right now. Just look at the Goodreads ratings for his famous address. The biggest group of readers, over 40%, gives it a pretty lukewarm 3 stars. People today are still wrestling with him. They find him fascinating, but also kind of off-putting. He's just as controversial now as he was then.
And that's why he's still a huge subject of study all over the world. You've got scholars digging into ancient Syriac texts, others reading him in Arabic translations like in this journal here. They are all still trying to figure this guy out. He's a puzzle that nobody's quite solved.
So, let's bring it all home. Why does this fiery, complicated guy from nearly 2,000 years ago still matter? What's his real legacy?
Well, Tatian is way more than just an early church figure. He is a blueprint for countercultural rebellion. Think about it. He learned the rules of Greek philosophy and rhetoric, not so he could join the club, but so he could dismantle it from the inside out. He literally took the master's tools to try and tear down the master's house.
And that leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? Tatian's scolding and blustering style was nothing if not confrontational. Is that kind of aggressive, pull-no-punches critique sometimes necessary to get at the truth and expose what's wrong with the culture? Or does that very approach, that very anger, end up destroying the reason and justice that you say you're fighting for in the first place? That is the challenge Tatian still throws at us today.